Yes, Aleksandar, thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
This is like for us the first of one of the series actually, and I felt very comfortable actually inviting you to come to Parashift. We've been in a lot of discussions in the past, and I was amazed by how you actually you and your team basically grew 3AP. So maybe you explain a bit of what 3AP is for those who don't know 3AP yet, and what is your work style or work mode? So
Sure. Yeah, well, so we started 3AP like 6.5 years ago. It was basically a small group of people who met, and not everybody knew themselves. So, and then at some point in time, we decided let's do it. And then we started to continue, and we basically started mainly in the pure agile software development. So how to build successful software solutions, doing it a bit more differently and adapting that process or that methodology to a company which has already their own processes, etc. So 3AP stands for as agile as possible. So over the course of the time, what we've done is we wanted actually to be able to that you come to 3AP with a vision and we turn it into a version. And that journey started roughly 4.5 years ago, where we introduced the concept of the startup in a box approach. And the startup in a box approach has different disciplines in there, which support with methods the process from a idea vision towards a scalable version. And it's an interdisciplinary team who works together, and always the process or the baseline is always agility. So so that's basically the core of 3AP. And now with you guys as well, with what we've done for some of our clients, we are now getting into the mode of providing also solutions to the market with our own services and this kind of stuff, where I think Parashift is going to play a major role in there.
Yeah, and you've been actually very successful with your company.
Yeah, well.
So not to put to put that behind things. Actually, I was amazed at how fast you guys grew, and how many of the big name clients you were able to win. And I when I was thinking of that, why is that so? That a new company can get a dent into these bigger accounts so quickly. I realized you sort of hit the nerve with bigger corporation actually approaching new ideas and new software products. While we, for quite a long time, we actually didn't do that. See that there were like these big projects, and it all took very long. It was waterfally developed. And now what I see a lot is that actually also big companies start to think, okay, we have an idea and we want to sort of do a prototype for that, and we would like to go some sort of a middle way of having a prototype that not must be thrown away after a certain test period, but can be built upon. What do you think? How did you? Is it something you see as well? I mean, obviously yes, because you have this startup in a box approach.
Absolutely.
And what would you recommend actually to CIOs thinking about how to structure? I think the IT strategy when it comes to your own software development with partners.
So I think it has a lot to do with the mindset of the team, of the people, etc. And just to kind of open it up, one of the things that we started very early in the company is to invest in the culture and the values of the company. And over the course of the time, the people who were very passionate about that, who fortunately joined also 3AP, they started to establish this thing. So approaching new ideas requires some kind of a vision, You can't actually explain all the things that you want to do, so it's kind of intuition, that your gut feeling, and the mindset of the people who are basically willing to take some risk, to fail, to learn, and to progress further. So that's I think something very, very crucial for each new undertaking. And if you go also like in a legacy environment, you will face certain things there as well. If you want to change something, then you need to, you can actually look at everything from my point of view. You can look at everything as a small startup, and then you can do amazing things with people.
Yeah, actually, I really like that. How much has helped with winning new clients? So because I think there's like an innovation hype or an innovation frenzy going on, that a lot of people want to try out new stuff, and I really like that. I think that's a super great time to actually do things today, even with COVID. And yeah, is that something that's sort of your, how to say, intentional strategy on getting new clients?
Yeah, well, so it's always, at the end of the day, we need to drive also our business. Our people are, me personally as well, I'm very passionate about the new things, how to explore new ideas in an existing environment, how can you basically break existing silos, and kind of looking at the solutions from more an user journey perspective, user experience, etc. There are some examples where for example, insurances are not only compared to another insurance, they are compared to features of other companies. The onboarding process, for example, or how can you actually automate a business process where you basically also kick in. And I think COVID has shown that everybody needs to rethink certain things. You can now suddenly, from one day to another, everybody was able to work remotely.
They finally found out it really works.
And it really works. Of course, there are some gaps that we need to also bridge there, but I think the innovation is gonna come in every company, and it has to come. So that's basically and that's where we are investing a lot. I think also some of the companies, if you look only at Switzerland, how some of the big banks, for example, are changing their management and this kind of stuff. This is something. These are strong signs for that.
Yeah, I think it's generally a great time for digitally experienced people. That's what I see as well. So actually, there's a funny thing. I just remembered as I was listening to you when the first time I heard about 3AP. You wouldn't guess. It's actually very, very funny. I was in talks with the lead architect of a big insurance company, and I was actually asking for some stuff regarding integrations and how we could do that and so on. And he says, well, I don't think we're having resources internally for that, but we're working with 3AP. Did you hear about 3AP? And I was no. They're the greatest ever. You really missed the greatest software development company for enterprises if you don't know them. And I was like, what the heck? I'm in this market for quite some years, and I didn't take notice of you. And he was really full of the best words for you guys. And then later, we're actually in that company. We're starting to work together, and I think it was sort of a bizarre start, wasn't it? Maybe we can tell the customer, right? We're not allowed to do that, but it's quite a big customer, and actually it was weird on actually how we got together.
Well, the thing is, so what this tells me is that we didn't do our homework. So in terms of marketing, we've been very shy.
Yeah, probably. There's some things left to do. Right.
So we started to actually improve that one. But I think it comes down that the founders, the people that we have, that we brought in early enough in the company as well, they came, we kind of felt on our own skin how you shouldn't do things or how you can do better, etc. And when you come into a big corporation, you will face similar things, and then you can actually find the arguments how to do it differently.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is understanding the environment, and at the end of the day, in a enterprise, you can't just get rid of the surrounding system. So you need to have the practice how to integrate certain things and so on and so on. And at the end of the day, also prove that new ways are also possible, and that there are certain things that I mean, there are also clients who are still thinking that you need to have your own service in the cellar, and this is I think a paradigm which needs to be learned different. And I think the interesting story that we had was basically that there were some people who wanted to do things differently, and they found these companies on the market. They took the risk because at the end of the day, not sure about you guys, but we've been a very small company, like early in, like 5 years ago, and so they took the risk that we as a company can do what we promised, what we've shown, what we've kind of were telling about, and then at the end of the day, it was a great journey so far, and the journey continued as well. So I think one of the things is that risk taking with who you want to go for that uncertain or for that vision, for that journey, and this is like this was, I think, the biggest support that we faced and that we are still facing in with winning new clients and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a good sign. It's better to be I would say that renowned, not being very well known in the market, but being very renowned for the work you do, versus be the opposite. Like everybody knows you, but everybody tells these guys are mediocre. For example, that would be wrong. And that's typically the case for all the bigger software companies. If you listen to the market, everybody knows them, but if you then talk to CIOs, they say, "Well, yeah, we're not unhappy, but we're not really happy as well." So I think that's really not a good spot. And
I think absolutely. And I think what I wanted always to establish is that the results speak for ourselves. On the other hand, what we can't and shouldn't and mustn't forget is to communicate about that, because at the end of the day, you will just be you're going to be more successful if you can find the right language how to communicate about your results. It's going to make you faster a bit on one hand, and but the communication is a big part, not only in to establish now a brand and continue on the journey, but also in a project which is like a rather complex one. The communication is basically the key on that, and I think the people, we are now, for example, investing a lot of things, actually putting some money into the communication, how we communicate, how we educate ourselves on that journey. You guys are doing an amazing job with what you do with marketing. So you're kind of fun for us. You are an example how you should do the things right.
Yeah, we only started. It's not like we think we're easy. We're already reached our cruising altitude, and there's a lot needs to be done on Parashift's end, to be frank, because we're a horizontal player.
Yep.
That means we don't have we're not concentrating on a vertical niche, and if you do that, especially with AI, then things get a lot more. It gets a lot more hard to actually win clients, because we're never actually providing an end-to-end solution. So we have like 10 to 20 prospects calling every day, wanting end-to-end solutions, and the first thing we actually do is to tell them, guys, we can get you document extraction, but we can't solve your end-to-end solution. So that's why we're sort of working heavily with partners, such as 3AP, to actually bring in partners that have vertical knowledge, that has like the industry knowledge, and end-to-end, maybe complementary solutions that really are solving the problems, and that's actually how we got together business-wise.
Yeah.
I remember being on holiday, calling you and basically telling you, I don't think you are going to get this extraction thing done.
Yeah, right.
I was very awkward, actually.
Yeah.
And I sort of, at the same time, I sort of was like, okay, we come in peace, and we want to work together with you. It's not that we're not going to replace you. So maybe you can shed a light on how that was for you, because it all went out very well. But it was strange, and it's sort of a perfect representation. I learned along our journey here. Because initially we were thinking we have a full end-to-end solution, and over time we learned the hard way. No, that's wrong. That's what everybody does. It's the real thing is to be a horizontal player and to work with as many great companies who can do the vertical integration thing. Yeah, just
absolutely. And well, our journey in terms of where we basically were in the beginning, facing you guys as a competition, was our journey started with a hackathon. We wanted to do something with the AI. We wanted to kind of the very first idea was I wanted to be able to take some photos of my bills, and then I have an app for that. So this was basically the very first step. Then the team, we took it further because we had a client who was facing a pain on a bigger scale, and us being a bit and having this entrepreneurial mindset, we started that journey, and then we went into the document extraction portion, and this was like, wow, okay, so this is not basically something that you can do from one day to another. It's not something that you can just integrate, and the biggest learning was that you need to have a workforce to train the models, etc., etc. But the journey, or our vision, was and still is that we need to go from end to end. And there is one process which is very difficult to accomplish, and in document processing, it's actually the extracting the relevant data out of that document. And so this was basically our biggest learning. And when we had the conversation, we said like, wow, these guys are already much more experienced. They have something already that we are just kind of scratching on the surface. And then we discovered, by that we were able to discover other areas where AI is important. So, and we want to continue on that journey, and also with our recent partnership that we've established is actually going into that direction. And still in the document processing is a pain to do so. A lot of data is required. A lot of other parties need to support you to make that thing successful.
It's a multi-dimensional problem.
Yeah.
It's not solvable. It's not solvable with money alone. That's
absolutely absolutely.
That's the weird thing. Yeah. Talk about that partnership. You announced it. It's with Atkubum.
Yes. So
tell me a bit more about that.
So our journey with Atkubum started with the same client where we basically met. We are actually not sure if we can mention the client. So it's a big insurance in Switzerland, and also internationally very well known.
I mean, if you listen to that and you're from that client, you know
exactly.
You.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah.
And our journey started with Atkubum on that one project where we wanted to. The vision of that insurance was to establish the next generation of a health platform. And then we saw basically they had a core system. We had to integrate certain stuff. We had to provide the offline capabilities, etc. And we've been told at that time, guys, never. There were some tries. Nobody was successful with that one. So after some months, our engineering team, together with our partners and the client, we were able to solve that. And so then the journey with Adkubum continued. Then there were also some other discussions on a more strategic level, etc. And I think what Adkubum has is they have it's one of the biggest players here in Switzerland in terms of providing a core system, and we have some knowledge. They know us, so basically our people, the senior management is of these companies are very close. So and then we started to explore what can we do more, and. One of the things is that what we had already, an AI service which is already in place, a business process, that we take that one and try to standardize and provide to other insurances, because we believe jointly that we will drive efficiency further. We will also be able to provide, to be closer to the end customer. To approach that end customer with just automating some stuff where in the process a lot of things are being done manually. Again, what you guys are trying also to solve, and this is kind of the triangle where I see that we are, at least we have to try, and the time will prove if the vision is going to be successful. So with the press announcement of couple of days ago, we have already some prospects, and however, the journey to establish something like this is rather an time consuming one. And the good thing is that we, now speaking a bit of 3AP, we come from this project integration world with our approach of startup in a box, and now with the AI in a box offering, we can bring these two things together with a deep knowledge of the health insurance or insurance generally. We can have basically a much better and compelling offering to the market. So that's basically the story about that.
Very good. I'm really looking forward to see how that evolves, and I think
we
it's
can,
a very smart move.
All together, I think we can change a bit the very costly health insurance in Switzerland, and I think there is some potential to also approach the end clients with some other things, because at the end of the day, when do you face your insurance? It's either you have health issues or you have some other things which are not really in favor of your life.
Interesting. Yeah, I think we're slowly coming to the end of our discussion. I actually want to ask you one last question, and it's more like an ego question probably, but it's a question that's actually led me throughout all my entrepreneurial journey, and it's very simple, even though the answer sometimes is depressing. So what do you think we at Parashift can do better?
I think,
where do we suck?
Well, I think for you guys, the data is a very crucial point. And what I don't have all these insights, right? But I think an approach to how can we, as a partner, be much more. We consider you guys as the experts on being able to extract the relevant data and to be able to play a bit with certain things. So I think if you guys can provide something that we can play around as a company, maybe you already have that, but so that we can basically work on some kind of showcases. And that this is because the AI topic is, everybody's kind of talking about the AI. What we try to do is that we make it tangible, and to explain what the difficulties there are. Showcases are very good for that because it's a rather than complex project journey that a client needs to take, considering the end-to-end solution. And with a partnership, you can basically try to make it more tangible
very good point.
And things. So showcases are, I think, something which is very that you can simply try something out.
Yeah.
Standard bill, insurance, take a photo,
We're
and then you have
currently
it.
exactly working on that. Yeah,
Perfect.
That's really the pain.
Yeah.
To make it tangible. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everything is artificial, and then how can you make it more?
It's not only for. That's what we realized as well. It's not only artificial in a way. It's it's also remote. Like there's this platform, and you can do a lot of things, but. And there's like other IDP players. Nobody actually makes it tangible. I think that's really, I think people like to play with things, and we should respond to that.
Exactly, and I think what you guys do very well is in terms of API. So this is rather in what happens in the background, but for a senior manager, for example, or some guys on the C level in a standard company. They need to be able, I think, to try things out, or at least their teams who are looking into marketing, because you guys are touching something very, very sensitive, and this goes directly into marketing as well. How can you improve your apps or whatever you have there in terms of digital solutions?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much. So, very last question: where do you see 3AP in 5 years?
Well, in 5 years, we're going to have not only our project business, we're going to have solutions in the market where we can basically grow a bit broadly and being able to really provide some solutions which will change a bit, or at least a bit, either not the world, otherwise, but some sort of markets. So cool. we need to change ourselves as well, and that this goes probably also in a bit cannibalizing our business model that we have so far, or that we have at the moment. And I think we need to reinvent every now and then.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for the talk. Thank you for taking the time to come here.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Feeling honored. So.
Thank you for having me, and I wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you, guys.